So we'll be breaking down some popular inversions. We're going to do headstand a few different ways, forearm stand a few different ways, handstand a few different ways, and shoulder stand one way that I like to teach it. We'll use a wall, and we'll also use some blocks. I've got 3 sets, so 6 blocks total. It's okay if you don't have that many. I just want to show you what you can experience or what you can see using that many blocks. So I'm going to do a quick little flow, a couple of sun salutes just to warm up my body, but I do really encourage you to be warm before you get into this. If you need more than that, pause the video, make sure you're warming up appropriately. We certainly want to avoid injury. So really important when we're moving into some of these upside down shapes is that we feel ready for them. We feel not only open, but also strong, but we're not too tired. So a lot of the mistakes that I see made when people are trying out inversions is doing them at the very end of their physical practice, and they're just so tired that their body wants to collapse and give up. So you want to feel strong, and if this is not the time, feel free to watch and try at a different time, or get yourself into that mentality of feeling strong. So if you're joining me, we'll start standing at the top of your space, away from the wall. I have my mat against the wall. You can set up however you want, and then use the wall accordingly. Feet about hip distance apart. Shift the weight a little bit forward and back, toes to heels, side to side, right and left. Soften or close your eyes, and flip your palms forward to relax your shoulders away from your ears. Take a moment here to tune into your breath. And just notice how you're feeling. Our minds are extremely powerful. So you can start by visualizing yourself upside down, maybe in one of the shapes I mentioned: headstand, forearm stand, handstand, shoulder stand. See yourself doing it. Feel yourself being in it. And let that power of your mind-body connection guide you over the course of these next few poses, few shapes. If you haven't yet, turn on your Ujjayi breath in and out through your nose. That deep, steady inhale, full cleansing exhale. And then eyes can stay soft or blink them open. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, forward folds. Lift halfway, breathe in. As you exhale, hands down, step back to a high plank and just hold there. Find some strength. Strong through your legs. Engage through your glutes and core. Really press into all 10 fingers, spread them out. Breath in, shift forward. Breath out, chaturanga, either halfway or all the way down. Up dog or cobra, big inhale. To your downward facing dog, exhale. Take a moment here. Bend your knees, breathe in, look forward. Step or hop your feet toward your hands, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Fold, release. Rise up, reach up, breathe in. Palms in front of your heart, breathe out. Again, inhale, hands high. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway up, halfway lift, breathe in. Exhale through your vinyasa, plank to chaturanga. Up dog or cobra to downward facing dog. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, travel to the top of your space. Lift halfway, breathe in. Fold, release. Inhale, rise. Palms together in front of your heart, exhale. Find a chair pose and just breathe here. Notice how your shoulders are feeling. Maybe hands at heart is better. Maybe you need a little openness, hands behind your back, interlace. Maybe you need to stretch your upper back, eagle arms. We always want to work for a balance between stability and strength. We don't want to be too open, we don't want to be too tight. Breathe in. Forward folds, breathe out. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, hands down, right foot steps back, lower your knee down. Bring your hands to your front thigh and simply let your hips pulse a little bit forward and back, finding some openness. I'm purposely practicing on carpet because to me it feels safer to do inversions. So if you have that available, you can always try your upside down shapes in a space that feels soft, or grab a pillow or some blankets. Lower your hands, shift your front toes forward, shift your weight back. Half splits, knee bent a little, knee straight. Feel this. Another place I really love to encourage people to practice inversions is on grass or on like a padded floor at a gym. I practiced a lot of my favorite inversions at a gym that had a mixed martial arts floor, so I could just fall and not be afraid of the falling part. Rebend your front knee, plant your right palm, and lift your left arm to the sky. Shoulders slide down your back, open your chest. And slowly release. Press back to downward facing dog. Pedal out your feet. Do whatever it is that you need. Bend your knees, breathe in, look forward. Step or hop to your hands, exhale. Lift halfway and fold. And then come right back to your chair pose. So if you took eagle arms, you might start with the opposite arm underneath. If you want hands behind your back to interlace, go there. Hands to heart. Stay present with your breath. We're going to need it and use it throughout this little practice. One more inhale. And forward fold, release. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, hands down. Left foot steps back. Lower your knee. Hands to your thigh. Gently rock your hips a little forward and back. And for some of our inversions, things like handstand where you're reaching one leg up, a little extra flexibility can help. You won't have to use as much force to lift yourself up, but it's okay if you don't have it. So I prefer to be less tired, so maybe a little bit less warm in my practice before I go into inversions. Hands down. Right toes a little forward, shift your weight back, half splits. Then be overdone, like I mentioned, trying to do this at the end of my practice when I'm really exhausted. One more breath. Rebend into your front knee, plant your left palm, reach your right arm to the sky. Find a twist. Beautiful, and slowly release. Step it back, downward facing dog. So just take inventory here of how you're feeling. Specifically, if your shoulders feel strong, it's normal for them to move a little bit up to your ears as you reach your arms up. You certainly don't want to be wearing earrings or shoulder earrings, excuse me, I should be saying. But you can think of sliding them a little bit down your back. If you feel warm and ready, as I am, you can drop to your knees. If you'd like to pause and do more of a warm-up, please feel free to take the time. We're going to start with a headstand, and headstand in Sanskrit is Shirshasana. Shirsha is your head, and this is considered the king of all poses. And some of the benefits of all of our inversions, but headstand specifically, because we're touching our crown to the earth, is it's going to really activate this crown chakra, this connection to something greater than ourselves. It's also got the benefit of helping kind of reverse the flow of gravity. We're normally standing, and obviously our blood pumps through our body well because of our heart, but we're giving our heart a little bit of a break by letting some blood move in a different way to our brain. Some people will say headstands are good for migraines or headaches. Others will say they're not. Some people will say they're good if you're trying to sleep. Others think of them as being more activating. So really you find your own experience and your own theories or viewpoints on those. I will say for all of these shapes, be very careful if you have eye stuff and check with your medical team to make sure it's okay to proceed. Things like glaucoma or eye surgeries, we don't want to put a lot of pressure on our eyes. And anytime we're in an inverted shape with our head down, we're adding some extra pressure there. So if you're getting some red flag moments, sharp shooting pain, lightning sensations, extra pressure, specifically in the eyes, please back off, stop, and reassess. I'm going to use the wall first. And a lot of students use the wall almost as a crutch in our inversion. So we're going to practice moving away from the wall as well, but it's there and it's a great place to start. What we want to think about in headstands is either a tripod shape with our hands and our head making a triangle, or our forearms down. And our forearms will really take the majority of the weight here. It's our shoulders that are doing the work, our back muscles. We're not just dumping onto the crown of our head because our necks aren't designed to hold our whole body weight upside down. So if you want to use the wall, I would give yourself a little space away from the wall. So I'm not going to bring my hands all the way to the wall or my head all the way to the wall. I'm going to start with the variation with my forearms down. I personally like my hands more stacked than interlaced, so I can release easier than kind of getting stuck. You do whatever makes sense for you. And what we're going to look for is that our elbows are below our shoulders. So we're not taking our elbows super wide. We're looking for this stack sensation. So I would say I'm about 6 to 12 inches away from the wall. I'm going to scoot my bottom back. I've got my elbows right below my shoulders. I'm going to bring my head down, and I really want to be on the crown of my head. A way to check for that is to take your thumbs inside your ears and find where your middle fingers meet at the top of your head and hold one there. And then your thumb between your eyebrows and take the other finger there. So it's actually a little bit more forward for me. So I want to be here. I don't want to be on my hairline at my forehead, and I don't want to be really back. I want to be at the top of my head. That's an important one. Hard to know if you're doing it just by yourself. You can kind of press down there, hopefully feel a little sensation, and connect that to your mat. So we don't ever want to kick in a headstand. If you have the wall, that's maybe the one exception, because you've got something to catch you. So I'm going to bring my head to the ground, kind of draw my elbows in, and then I'm just going to take a down dog shape. And this is step one, and you can absolutely stay here, and this is a great place to be to build some comfort, being upside down, to build some strength. I'm sure I'll take lots of breaks in here because lots of blood is rushing to my head as normal. If you can, you're going to walk your feet in, and notice how that takes my hips over my shoulders. I've got enough strength and flexibility there that I can even just float my feet off the ground. Not everyone's going to have that. Totally okay and not required, but if you have that, that's where that lift, that float up is going to come from. And it might even look like my hips are going forward, more forward of my shoulders, which is very possible. We'll set that up appropriately so that everything lines up once you get all the way up. If you're not able to find that little float, you're going to start by taking one knee to your chest and then play with just lifting the other toes off the ground. And then trading, knee to chest, foot to butt, toes off the ground. If that's working for you, you can play with extending one leg up or finding that wall behind you and see how the other leg just floated off by itself. Maybe then you start to extend your legs up. So I'm going to collapse here, see if you can find a lift. So really lifting yourself out of your legs. Maybe then finding a little space away from the wall and squeezing your inner thighs together so you're reaching up through your feet. Another thing that we'll want to think about when we're moving upside down is lifting your pelvic floor. So finding what we call mula bandha, or pelvic floor engagement, like a Kegel, like you're stopping the flow of urine or your poop from coming out. So you're lifting everything up, and that'll help find lightness. Also helps to support the muscles around your spine to protect your body. So that's one option, using the wall. You can also do a tripod shape, and I'll demonstrate that one away from the wall. This is one that is pretty accessible for a lot of students to find initially from a crow pose. So it's like you're falling out of a crow pose. You're coming into a tripod headstand. I love to teach this where people keep their knees on their elbows, their triceps, without lifting their legs to the sky, because they're already finding a headstand without that extension. It's a little bit safer. They're not going to fall. If you are feeling like you're going to fall, try and bring knees to chest, especially if you're away from the wall, because you're not falling into it, or tuck your chin to your chest and do a forward roll forward. I recently did a forward roll as an adult. It is not as comfortable as I remember it being as a kid, so I recommend knees to chest as best you can. We're going to try not to fall to the side. That could really hurt your neck, especially in a headstand type shape. So for this one, like you're going to move into your crow pose, bend your elbows. You're going to make a little tripod. Your head is going to come in front of your hands. Boop. And I'm already there in a headstand. I'm
my feet are off the ground. Then if you feel safe, you've got the option to use your core to lift one leg to the sky, play with lifting the other, and if that feels good, squeeze your elbows in, strong core, maybe both at the same time. And this is where I have no idea if I'm straight, hoping I'm somewhat close, but if I feel like I'm gonna fall, knee to chest, or ideally both legs in and come down the way that you went up, so you're safe in coming out. Another way I really love to teach headstand is using these blocks. And I brought 3 so that I can ensure that I've got the space for my neck. I'm gonna kind of face them this way so you can see my head. And this may be better against the wall for some people. You can also do this with 2 folding chairs close together if you've got access to them. You just want to have enough space for your head to go between the blocks, and your shoulders are going to go on top of the blocks. My head's not even going to touch the ground. This will allow me to feel the shape of being upside down without putting pressure on my head or my neck. So getting the benefits of the shape without that head contact or that additional pressure. And I'll show you this to the wall too so you can see what's happening on this side. But my hands are going to go right behind the blocks. I'm going to drop the tops of my shoulders to the block, head in between. And you can move into this. My head is just barely skimming the ground. From your tripod, from your regular shape, wherever you need to be. And maybe depending on how your body feels, you might have to adjust your blocks. My cork blocks are really stable. I would never go on the side of a foam block, but I'm going to try it against the wall this way to see if I can create even a little bit more space. So again, I'm going to set that up with my blocks. My head goes between, my shoulders go on top. That feels pretty stable. And if something doesn't feel safe, don't move forward. So you're going to want to always feel that safety. Hands can't touch with totally 90-degree bend here. So I'm going to do fists. You could always come onto your fingertips. Find the wall. And I just feel like a little bat hanging. Getting a nice traction for my neck. I can even move my head around here. I would never recommend that if you're touching the ground, but with some space, you can find a little bit of mobility. And so that can be a fun way to move into your headstand as well. And then the final way that I like to move into a headstand is from a wide-legged forward fold. So from a prosarita shape. For some of us, moving upside down with our legs wide lets us feel a little bit more successful because we're taking up space with our feet, with our legs. And so we're feeling like we've already got this balance versus coming into one small line. And there's lots of variations of ways you can do this. But you would start in your wide-legged forward fold. Again, you could take your forearms down, hands interlaced or stacked. You could find your tripod, whatever you prefer. I'm going to do forearms down because that's my favorite version. I'm gently holding the back of my head, coming onto the crown. My hips shift forward, and I use my strength to lift my legs. And sometimes I like just hanging out here. Legs wide, just feeling this inversion. Other days, I'm like, cool, I'm going to go up. Try not to kick the window or fall through it. And then I come back down the same way, hopefully with a little bit of control. And there might be a shape that feels really natural for you to find afterwards. A child's pose, a thread the needle. For me, it's always a chest opener and a little neck stretch. Feel free to explore those shapes anytime you're moving out of your inversion, and really take some time to rest and find the opposite sensation. I'm obviously moving through these relatively quickly, but you can and maybe will want to try to hold these for several breaths or up to a few minutes to really feel some of the benefits, to practice being upside down, to breathe through the shapes. And there are different variations of ways you can put your arms in headstand. I have a full class on variations on headstand that I'll include below in the links so that you can see and try those on your own if you're interested. The next one that we'll do is my favorite pose, and one that I spent a lot of time working on because I was just obsessed with it when I started practicing yoga in this way, and it is forearm stand,
or in Sanskrit, Pincha Mayurasana, which is a feathered peacock. Mayurasana is peacock pose, Pincha is this feather. We'll do it toward the wall, we'll do it away from the wall, and then we'll also do an L shape on the wall. And the L shape is one that I really love for forearm stand and for handstand. You can certainly also do it for headstand. It just doesn't feel quite as natural for me, so I don't always teach it that way. Another tool that you might use for your forearm stand is a block, and I'll use pink so you can see it on my mat when we move away from the wall. So you can see this set up, and that helps to keep our hands set in the right position. So forearm stand, a great place to start is a forearm plank, is a dolphin pose, like a down dog on your forearms. And both of those shapes will help build a lot of core strength, a lot of back strength, as well as shoulder and back flexibility. And one of the reasons I love forearm stand is it's a beautiful mix of strength and flexibility in your shoulders and upper back. So it's one that kind of embodies to me that balance that we're always looking for. If we're working toward the wall, I like, again, a little space away from the wall, so you've got space to kick into it without slamming your butt into it, and then some space to play away and find balance. So we're gonna turn. I'll give myself probably at least 12 inches. Forearms down. Again, we're looking for elbows below shoulders. You wanna watch that you're not sliding out with your elbows. And that's a hard thing to pay attention to. Some people like to do a strap around their upper arms. Not my favorite way, so I'm not gonna do it today, but that may be helpful. I'm spreading my fingers. You can also bring your hands together, interlaced, but I was taught the 11 arms parallel, and that's the way I love to practice it. So I'm just gonna tuck my toes, lift my hips, hang out in a dolphin, and notice again that I'm not collapsing, my head's not touching the ground. I've got enough space, enough strength to lift up. To go a little deeper, you're gonna walk your feet in, one leg up, just feel the stretch, you might stay there. Switch legs, hang out, or if you feel ready to move on, I'm looking between my forearms and just taking some little kicks. I can find the wall, I'm in this pretty bowed shape, but then I can reach one leg up to the sky and try to find the other to meet it. Woo! And that'll happen. You'll kind of play and fall out and play and fall out, but that gives you some time and space to move into it. A wall is also nice if you want to work into like a scorpion forearm stand. And for that, you're going to walk your feet down the wall, bend your knees, and look forward. And I'll demonstrate. So again, you want a little bit of space. One leg up, find the wall. And I call it cheating, but it's totally not. I bend the top leg. Some weight goes forward over my head. It makes it easier for me to find my balance. And then I can walk down and play with that little scorpion shape. Hard to talk through, but also a good measure of if you're breathing. So a good reminder for myself to make sure that I'm breathing through it. I'm gonna do one away from the wall, and I'll use this block so you can see how I would set that up. Essentially, we're gonna take the block and make an L with our fingers. And this ensures hands don't come together. And like I said, that's fine to me to practice. What I'm more worried about is elbows going wide. But for a lot of us, keeping your hands spread around that L kind of helps hug the elbow in versus hands together guides our elbows wide for whatever reason. So if you want to practice with the block, place it down, make a little L shape with your thumb and index finger. Elbows down. And then you take one leg up. For me, there's always one leg that's more comfortable. Again, I'm gonna bend. That's my natural way of getting into it. Try to find a little bit of shift, a little lift. Whoop. My other leg bent, that's okay. Legs to the sky, and then reach up through your feet. Breathe, breathe, breathe. When you're ready, come on down. I feel a lot in my shoulders. Totally normal. Obviously, like I said, a lot of strength and flexibility going on there. So you wanna make sure that you're feeling warm enough, open enough, not too tired, they're gonna collapse. A lot of people are afraid of forearm stand because they're afraid of falling on their nose, on the crown of their head, hurting their neck. Totally understandable, and this is where, again, that nice soft surface can be helpful, or even placing a pillow close by. This one, you wanna be careful that you're coming back the way you went up. So like we did in headstand, knees to chest, feet back down. If you flip over, you go into a really deep back bend with your hands behind you. Most of us do not love that shape, are not really open for that shape, so I encourage you to find however you need to come back out. Coming out to the side can be not super comfortable as well in forearm stand just because your forearms are down and it puts a weird stress on your shoulders. It's not as big a deal in a handstand, but we want to be aware of that also. Finally, we're going to come into the L shape. We'll also do this in handstand. So no worries if this is a little strange, we'll revisit. For the L, you want to scoot your bottom all the way to the wall. I like to use my prop, my block, or something. You can even draw like a line on your mat if you have a textured mat where your feet are. And I'm going to take the edge of my block to where my feet are. And that's where I'm going to place my hands or my fingertips for my forearms. And I'm going to bring my legs to the wall. And this is really great practice of finding the upside down shape, finding the lift without moving all the way upside down, but feeling the right sensation in our upper bodies and lower bodies. So I'm going to bring my forearms down. I said fingertips in line. I'm going to bring them a little bit forward because that feels very close. Butt up, and I'm going to walk my feet to the wall. And then I'm going to lift my hips. And it looks like it's more like elbows in line with the block. Walk your feet in line with your hips, and then lift. And I've got a little shadow here so I can kind of see. You can stay right here in the L and just feel what that feels like. You can play with lifting one leg. This might be nice to do more of a relaxed neck if you're not going upside down. Eventually, folks will go into this in what we call a hollow back. I don't practice that, so I'm not going to show it today. But you can kind of just feel what being upside down on your forearms is like with the safety of the wall, more at your feet to stand versus kicking into the wall like we did in that first shape. So that's your forearm stand. The next one we'll do is your handstand, and very similarly, we're going to kick into the wall, we're going to use the L shape, we're going to practice some kind of drills or things that you can work on to get comfortable being in a handstand. For handstand, I like to start a little bit away from the wall as I've been doing. And handstand is Adho Mukha Vrikshasana, which is downward facing tree pose in Sanskrit. So kind of like a tree upside down. You can think about handstand if you were to look at your hands and stand straight up. This is what we want it to look like. We want to be stacked. Wrists, shoulders, hips, feet. Most of us, when we first are learning a handstand away from the wall, we go into more of a banana shape, and that's okay. That's just what happens. But eventually we want to think about drawing hips to ribs and kind of finding more of that neutral pelvis. Not tucked under, I almost over-exaggerated, but more of that neutral shape there. So I really like to take handstand from a standing splits shape. And so whatever leg feels more flexible in a splits, you're going to take that leg down. Hands for me are about 12 inches a foot away from the wall. Other leg I'm really going to lift. So I'm going to think about using my glutes to lift, and I'm going to push with the bottom leg. So push, some little kicks until I can find the wall. And then I'm going to press the wall away, press the ground away, move one foot away from the wall, and then the other. Maybe, maybe not. And try to find that core engagement, that pelvic floor engagement, so you can float away from the wall. I'm going to try a little further away, try to find the wall with a bent leg. I think I can create more upward lift a little bit more successfully if I give myself more space. That might feel scary because it might feel like you're going to fall into the wall. Think about reaching with a bent leg versus reaching with a straight leg, so you're not taking your whole body to the wall, just your foot. So I'm going to bend that leg when it comes up. There it is. This leg is going to reach up, my right leg is reaching high, left leg is bent on the wall. Try to find stacked. Ooh. And then together. And I'm not in a place in my practice, as you can see, where I can find handstand super regularly away from the wall, perfectly balanced for a long time. It happens in moments, it's fun to play, but remember that it's just a pose. So let go of any idea of perfection, let go of any idea of you having to look or be a certain way, have fun with it. It's another really cool benefit of inversions, or something that I get out of my inversion practice, is the chance to play, to feel like a kid, to have fun, to not take myself too seriously, and to just let go of perfectionism in whatever form you can let go of it. We'll take the same idea, this time hopping, kind of like a frog, into the handstand shape. So I'll take my hands a little bit closer. I'm about 1.5 feet away. I'm going to do like a short down dog. I'm gonna bend both knees. I look between my hands, even a little bit forward. If I look back, I'm gonna fall all the way forward, which isn't a big deal when you have the wall, but it will be a big deal later when we move away from the wall. So I think about looking the direction I'm going, or straight down between my hands. I'm gonna give a little hop. Whoop. Maybe you find it on the first time. Maybe you just find a little hover in a tuck. And play with that. The nice thing about having that tuck sensation is it's really engaging your core, and that can be really helpful in finding the balance. I'm forgetting to breathe, so don't be like me. Try to remember to breathe. Another one that we're gonna do is with one leg kind of bent, knee to chest, and I think about this one as kind of like a tiger pose or a knee to nose when I'm in my plank. And that's gonna do the same thing, engaging the core, thinking of finding that strength without overly rounding or tucking, but that sensation of being engaged while the other leg reaches up. So I have no idea which leg will bend. We'll try one and then the other. I'm gonna reach my left leg up, it looks like. Right knee will bend to my chest. So I just reach up and bend, reach up and bend, and I might be able to find a little hover. Nope. Switch sides. Right leg this time is gonna reach up. I'm really pressing with my left leg, but I'm also reaching with my right leg. Oh, maybe. And then release. Give yourself lots of breaks. I'm gonna take a little moment to talk to you, and then we'll switch to flip it around. You'll see so many different variations of this shared, so many different ways that you can practice these things. So try what works for you. If something that I say doesn't make sense, let it go. Try something else. There are teachers who are amazing at things like press handstand. I am not one of them, but I do think that if you're wanting to, and if you have the strength and the willingness, that you can play with some variation of this. It may not float, it may not stay upside down for 5 minutes, but you can find something or some way to achieve a version of handstand that works for you. You might also be feeling your wrists. The negative part of being on a soft surface, it's a little tougher on your wrists. We're gonna take that L again. So bottom down, legs extend. This time I know my hands are gonna go where the block is. So let's bring the block to my heels. Oh, a little moment there. And then same sensation as we did before. You want your foot to start as high as your butt. Make your L, and then other leg up. So you can totally stay in just the L, or play with finding a little bit of balance. And sometimes even overextending this top leg, like you're moving into a split shape, can help because you're reaching in opposite directions, you're finding balance. Similar to how we had our legs wide in our headstand, that might feel good for you. So go ahead and play with that, or even knees bent. I call it like a stag shape. Can help us find a little connection to our core and a little balance with one leg forward, one leg back. So we'll try the other leg, and I'll show you what I mean by this bent shape. So I can often, when I'm just playing with handstand, I think it's the other leg, this is sort of the shape that I'll find and balance. Is one leg bent, one leg, both legs bent, one forward and one back. So that's another way to play with it. You can also do belly against the wall. I don't love this one, I'll admit. I'll show it to you. But this is one that a lot of folks recommend as far as training for a handstand. It feels a little bit stuck to me, and I feel a little bit fearful of falling out. But the idea is that you walk yourself pretty close. You take your legs up the wall, and then you walk your hands all the way in. Let's see how close I can get so that your belly is on the wall, your nose is on the wall. And as you can see, I'm not loving that shape. I don't go all the way close, but if you really want to play their handstands, try that one. Another thing I recommend is playing away from the wall. So not just the L's or not just kicking into the wall, but moving your handstand practice opposite direction to the front of your mat, away from the wall, just floating. Because I think that really helps you get rid of some of the fear or some of the crutch that happens when we're using the wall to balance. So one of my favorite ways to do this is to think of, again, an L without the wall. So I'm gonna think of one leg straight up, the other leg straight back behind me. Maybe it hovers closer to the ground, maybe it comes a little bit more parallel, as if there's a string attaching my feet. So my top leg is gonna reach up and just gently pull my bottom leg with it. My mat's doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but that's okay. So I'm gonna think of right leg reaching over my head and left leg floating. I spread my fingers, I take a shift forward. I'm gonna think about leading with my foot, but also taking my hips over my shoulders. I'm not worrying about kicking my second leg up. I'm not worrying about knee to chest. I'm just letting that L shape kind of do its thing to get me up. I'm gonna switch sides, play with that. And you'll see even that up and down sensation that's happening for me is awesome. A great way to play with moving upside down, building strength, building some heat, and kind of energizing my body as well. Handstands can feel like one that like, whoo, now I have all this energy. So maybe you don't want to do it at the very end of your practice, more toward the middle or even the beginning. I'll show you also a shoulder stand variation using the wall because it's a very powerful inversion, said to be the queen of all poses, Sarvangasana. But because it can put a lot of pressure on your neck if done incorrectly, it's one that I don't teach in group classes unless I have a really small intimate group and I can watch all of my students. And I often, well, probably never teach it online because I can't watch people, so I can't be sure that they're protecting the safety and health of their neck. I will make an exception today, but I'll encourage you, if you want to do this one, to either watch first and then try it, or if you're going to listen and try to go through it, don't look at your screen. So definitely do not turn your head side to side. Even though we're not putting a ton of weight on our head, it should more be on your shoulders. That's the name shoulder stand. You do have some weight on your head, and if you turn it in that position, you can really injure your neck. So, my little red flag warning. For this one, we're going to start with legs up the wall. So I like to come sideways with my hip against the wall, lay down on my side. There's my mic, and then flip my legs up and scoot my butt toward the wall. You can give yourself a little space, and I kind of adjust depending on the day, how close or how far I want it. And this is a beautiful variation of a shoulder stand, legs up the wall. Waterfall if you're away from the wall. Awesome, you get almost all of the benefits, I would say just as much benefit from this position as you would be from going up. If you want to move forward, you're gonna bend your knees, place your feet on the wall. And you can play with the distance of your feet from your hips, but you don't necessarily want them super duper close. So I think about taking like a bridge pose here. I'm just gonna lift my hips. Head is very stable. I need to move my ponytail a little bit. And I'm gonna shimmy my shoulders underneath me, interlace or find your low back. You can stay like that. Take one leg up, the other, and you'll notice my hips are not completely over my shoulders, and that's okay. If I want to go a little further, I'm gonna tuck a little bit more, lift away from the wall, and then find that shoulder stand. My wall is right here. You could certainly go into more of a plow shape, find something else, but you've got the wall to come down carefully and with control to roll through your spine. So just a little extra level of support using that wall to find your shoulder stand. Again, keeping your neck really safe. What we're wanting to look for is space behind the neck, so we're not taking chin to chest and kind of smoothing the back of the neck to the floor. You've got the natural curve in your cervical spine. And you probably noticed, if you were watching, that my hips don't go over my shoulders. So I am not a shoulder stand practitioner on a regular basis. It's just not a pose that feels great for me. I usually have a lot of tension on the one side of my neck based on my lifestyle, playing with my kid, the way I sleep, my body anatomy, whatever it is. That just doesn't feel great for me to take a shoulder stand. But if I'm gonna take one, I will use the wall to find some variations. And then I want to end with a fun kind of half forearm stand, half headstand that a lot of people like to play with, and then a transition option from headstand to forearm stand. I'm going to attempt this away from the wall. We'll see what happens. Starting with that half headstand, half forearm stand. So for this one, I'm going to bring my left forearm down, support the back of my head like a headstand, and bring my right hand down. So this is like a headstand, just with one tripod, one head,
one supported version, and you can come all the way up, or like you saw I started, you can just take one knee down.
That's kind of a fun one. Sort of feels like a forearm stand, a headstand. Obviously your head is down, so more headstand. The other one is moving from a headstand to a forearm stand. And the way I get into this is I take my forearm headstand, so my forearm supported headstand. I find my balance, and then I open my hands, lift my head, and lift my legs. And I'll probably take it into a little bit of a scorpion, so we'll see how it goes. It's not pretty. It's probably not the smoothest. It's not something I've been practicing regularly, but something I wanted to share. So bear with me. So forearms down, no wider than my shoulders. Hands are stacked, that way I can move them out easily. Head down, tuck in. I'm gonna come into a little ball to lift, come all the way up. And then when I'm ready to move, I'm not gonna take a scorpion from here, but I'm gonna start to bend my knees, feet to butt. Hand down, and then I'll lift my head and find that scorpion. Not long, but you can see how you can play with some of those transitions. As always, please be aware, head, neck, shoulders, be gentle with your body, be kind to your body, take the breaks that you need, and respect what your body's saying when it needs a break, when it wants to do something different, or if something isn't working for you. So I encourage you to check out some more videos as I've linked below. Let me know your feedback, your comments, what else you're looking to practice, and I thank you so much for joining me. Palms together, we'll bow our heads in silence. Have a wonderful day.